Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Orange Crush podcast here on TigerNet. And of course, it's Thanksgiving week, which means it's rivalry week, Clemson, South Carolina. And I was talking to a lot of people, and I said, who would you like to see on a podcast? And everybody came up with the same name, the Coot Killer himself. Charlie, did you know that your nickname is the Coot Killer?
I've I've heard a few nicknames out there, and yeah, that's one of them. Yep.
Charlie, of course, 4-0 all time against South Carolina. So we figured we'd bring him on and talk a little bit of Clemson and South Carolina. Charlie, welcome to the Orange Crush podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So before we get going, I have to ask, what keeps you busy these days?
Oh. Well, I figured out how to not have a job for the last 10 years. I haven't started a family yet, so I have a lot of time on my hands. This time of year, I'm busy. It's football season. I've got obviously following Clemson, like watching NFL football. I've got a nephew that's playing Pop Warner football, and so kind of exciting time of the year. I didn't get to do a lot of outdoor stuff when I was playing football, so I do a lot of hunting now. I go to Utah, I go to Texas a couple times a year. So I'm getting ready to actually drive out there after Thanksgiving to West Texas and do a hunt that we have, a deer lease out there. So I figure out, every day's kind of different. I've got a car deal that I like cars and I kind of work on them, old cars. So I don't make any money. All my hobbies I pay for. So I need to figure out how to change that around. But just enjoying kind of football retirement still, 8, 9, 10 years later.
Well, Charlie, it's fascinating. Before we get into the South Carolina of it all, I'd been told that you're the one with the long hair at Clemson quarterbacks before it was cool, kind of beating Trevor Lawrence to the punch. Is there a riff there on the luscious hair yet?
I don't think so. I mean, Trevor, I didn't grow my hair longer until I was out of the heat of the southeastern United States. So it seemed like every year I wanted to do it, and we go out there and do our conditioning all summer. And I'd miss one haircut, and I said, "All right, that's enough. Cut it off. It's too hot here." So I give Trevor, credit for weathering that humidity. I had to go to San Diego to grow my hair out, so now I'm impressed that he was able to do that in college. I wasn't able to do that.
I tell you what, you probably need to take me out to the deer lease. I've got a friend that he was in Kansas a week or so ago and dropped about a 225 pounder, which I'd take that all day, right? Can eat on that for a
Sure.
while. It makes me a little bit jealous because football season doesn't exactly allow a lot of time in a deer stand or
No,
sitting out in a blind somewhere.
no. You gotta get out of it. But that's part of the reason. People ask me all the time. You're like, "You think you'll coach?" And I, my answer is, golly. I mean, the time commitment in coaching is more so than even being a player. And I know you guys are doing it too. I mean, it's all day, 6, 7 days a week. I'm sure. So yeah, it's tough. It takes all your time. But I mean, obviously, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but when I was playing, I mean, it's the only thing I wanted to do. It was the most rewarding thing um, I could think of, and I don't know what I would have done if I didn't play football. So there's something, and I'm sure it'll bring me back at some point. But it's just something about it that it's hard to stay away.
And what might be the most rewarding thing in that Clemson career was taking on the Gamecocks 4 straight times. And we've heard a lot this week, Charlie, about how this game takes on a season of its own. So before we get into the actual game, before you went to Clemson, before you came into this rivalry, what was maybe your understanding of what it meant to this state and kind of the battle that takes place this week? Friendships are lost, as Tyler Brown told us this week. What was your preconceived notion of what the Palmetto Bowl is like before really taking a nosedive into it?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I Clemson was not really, it was late for me. It was late in the recruiting process. They offered me, I think, in December. So I didn't take an unofficial visit to Clemson. I'd never seen a Clemson football game until my freshman year, which is probably rare for most guys that sign and go to any college. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know really anything about it. I knew that was the rival. I was I was shown it that first year we played in Columbia, my my redshirt year, and I didn't have to play, so it was just kind of traveling and got to dress out and watch. But it was a somber locker room after we lost that game, and a lot of the guys in state, you could tell that that was why they played football. That was the biggest thing for them every year was playing against their high school buddies. I mean, a lot, guys were from Columbia that went to Clemson, and probably vice versa. There's guys from the upstate that go to South Carolina. Everybody plays against each other. Everybody knows each other. I was from out of state, from Georgia. Didn't know about that until kind of that first game, watching how big a deal that was. So it took me another year to be involved with the game in '02, but it went from not understanding to, okay, this is obviously bigger than the Florida State game. Any game we could play, this is 10 times as big.
Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton Scott and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and two-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton Scott and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
Charlie, out of those games that you played in, which one kind of stands as the crown jewel? Which one's your favorite or most memorable of those rivalry games?
They're all really different, and they all are memorable, kind of for different reasons. I think for me personally, it's the first one that I played in. I had played. I think it was my fourth start that I had made. Played well in the first two. Maryland came, and we struggled. I struggled. So now it's like here it is. Here's the big game. It was at home. It was a night game, and it was that one. That's one of the most special games I ever played in personally, because I felt like I contributed to the win, and I felt like you kind of did it for those guys, those seniors that were from the state, and then, oh yeah, shoot, everybody in the state, all the people in the stands as well. But kind of the contrast from the year before to getting the victory and being part of that win was special for me.
Is there a play for you, Charlie, that stands out where you're just like, that's a moment where you either was like, this rivalry it's like a welcome to the rivalry moment, or was there a play that you maybe made where it just lives on? Other Clemson fans come up to you and they're like, I can't believe you made that throw or made that play against South Carolina. Is there one that particularly stands out?
Third down and Willie B.
There was there's a few, like the touchdown run in the first game where I kind of spun out of the pocket and ran it in. People talk about that sometimes. The first and 35, the last one, and then the third game in 03. No, that'd have been the second one. In 03, the three touchdown, the Hamilton and then Aries and then Ben Hall. So there's so much of it. I don't think about it very much. I try to make it to Clemson once or twice a year, start talking about it, and do some of this stuff. And then there's tons of plays. There's dozens and dozens. I mean, there was one that was kind of funny. I think in 02, I remember we're kind of backed up. It was early in the game, and we're backed up kind of towards the hill going out. And I I think I read the signal wrong or backwards or something. I was looking left to throw an in, and I think it was to J.J. McKelvey. And he took off and ran a post. That meant the end was coming from the other side. I'd flipped it in my brain or something like that. So, so he doesn't run the end. I had good protection. I kind of kept working to the left and just cut it loose down the field. I mean, I literally didn't know the play until a half a second before I threw the ball. It was like a 40 or 50-yard game, So stuff like that people never know about. And it looks like, oh, man, he's really dicing them up. So, yeah, got lucky on that one. Didn't know the play, But there's just so many. I could keep going for for a long time. But yeah, it's hard to pick one really.
That 03 game, of course, everybody knows that is the 63-17 game. Everybody remembers Todd Ellis of the South Carolina Radio Network going touchdown, Chad Jasmine, touchdown, Chad Jasmine. Yeah, at what point in that game, did you kind of realize not only do we have this, but we've got a chance to just blow their doors off?
Yeah. I don't remember. There was a time in the second quarter. I think they had a deep pass or something like that. There's a time in the second quarter where it sort of turned into a game. I don't know if it was like 17. Well, it wasn't 17 because we scored touchdowns. I don't know, 21-10 or something like that. I don't know. But I think we scored right before half. And I don't remember the score at halftime, but I think it may have been 35. But I think we came out and went down the field. I think we scored the last, threw one to Dwayne Coleman, a touchdown. I don't know what the score was, but it was like they just don't have the time. It's like somebody winning the lottery. It's like you don't have time to spend all that money. You know what I mean? There's no chance. But I think when I knew it was over is probably when I think we were out of the game, and Chancey was playing quarterback. They put the second team in, and Tommy Sharp was my center. One of my best friends. And he came up and he was dancing on the sideline, and we're gonna have a good time tonight, type thing. I said, "All right." Tommy says it's over. This one's over. So that was really fun. When you watch pretty much the whole last quarter from the sideline, you've had a good night.
What's fascinating about not only getting to talk to you, Charlie, and it sort of surrounds in this game, one of the questions that was fielded to Cade Klubnik yesterday was, is it fair to potentially judge your legacy here at Clemson based on the result on Saturday? And a lot of folks remember you for not losing a single game to that. It's one of those situations where the season it's a meaning of its own, but it's that South Carolina game that a lot of folks will remember. And a 6-6 Clemson season this year versus 7-5, riding that momentum into a bowl game, stacking it on a win over South Carolina on the road. Just what could a win mean for Klubnik and Williams-Brice, where it hasn't been always perfect for Cade in his Clemson tenure, but 2 wins in Williams-Brice against the Gamecocks? How does that maybe shape how fans might remember him down the road?
Yeah, no, I think it's a big deal. I mean, you're going to be playing 2 more games. It's not making the playoffs. So, I mean, I think just, personally for him, I think it would mean a lot to him. I think Clemson fans would remember that as a fond kind of last hurrah. It means a lot. I guess I heard Dabo say something that means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, it really. I wish people nationally understood what it means for the state. I mean, I kind of being from the South, you hear Auburn, Alabama a lot and stuff, and then but this is as heated a rivalry. It can't be any more important. If you've been a part of it, you realize that it can't. Nowhere can be more than this. I mean, it's hostile when you go there. It's hostile when you come to Clemson. And I think, yeah, I mean, I know Cade's had a lot of ups. He's had some downs. If they could get a win, I think everybody will remember that for sure.
A perfect example of that is a couple of years ago at Dabo Swinney's high school camp. I'm in the indoor facility watching some quarterbacks work out, and Taj Boyd walks up. Of course, Taj working with the Clemson football team now. He's on staff, and the guy behind me goes, "Hey, look, that's Taj Boyd. He never beat South Carolina." And, you go, oh, okay, so Taj, beat Ohio State in the Orange Bowl, took Clemson back to an ACC championship game, like won some big games. And people, say, well, he didn't beat South Carolina, so does it matter? It took Deshaun Watson with a torn ACL to kind of break that streak. It's funny how people remember, the games and the players and exactly how you do in that rivalry. And, my buddy Reggie Merriweather, who is on the Clemson Radio Network now, man, he fights on social media with those guys all the time. He has a ball with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously important. I mean, people think so. I mean, I look at like the Sean and Trevor. Did they beat them every time, right? But it was 2 or 3 times. I mean, like, so do people remember that, or they remember they won a national championship each? So it's like, I don't know how Taj feels about it, but I mean, he obviously was he was a great player, and I think it's the way it goes. I'm thankful that really just my career and the guys that I played with too. I mean, I say it all the time. Like when I'm asked this, there's a handful of other guys that were 4-year winners at Clemson as well. I mean,
Yeah.
so and probably in the history before me or I don't know after me, all that stuff. But I mean, there's guys on my team that beat them 4 times too. You get the credit when you're the quarterback. But I don't know. There's a lot that goes into a football game, and obviously the quarterback gets praise and gets criticism. Kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm not sure what I was going to say, but maybe it'll come back to me.
So we got this podcast here for free-flowing conversation here with Charlie Whitehurst. What's fascinating is something you touched on about how nationally you wish this game was more rather perceived. Can you maybe elaborate on what that means to you and just how this rivalry's grown beyond your playing days here at Clemson?
Yeah. Well, what it means to me is when people, when I'm in Clemson or something, it's like, oh, South Carolina lost. South Carolina's sorry this year, whatever. I pull for South Carolina every single game. Obviously except the Clemson game. I think that would, Clemson had a rise in the mid 2000s, late 2000s. That if South Carolina could do that, which I hope they do. I don't wish complete misery on them. I mean, there was a time where I really really disliked really not the players ever, but like South Carolina fans, and I just trying to ruin their whole year. But I want South Carolina to ascend. I want Clemson to ascend again, and I think that would help a lot for sure. I mean, I think that would be good for both programs. I think it'd be good for the game.
You had last year's game too, where it was like a playoff game, and it only rises the stakes of it. I mean, last year felt so important, where essentially South Carolina had knocked Clemson out of playoff contention, if not for Fran
Mm-hmm.
Brown and Syracuse. So that the stakes
Mm-hmm.
there, it makes for a really spectacular storyline. And so this year doesn't have it as much, but that extra oomph if both teams are at their best, where it essentially feels like it could be a play-in game for one of those at-large bids down the road.
Yeah, right. And I mean, it's different this year. I mean, maybe you need to have a fight again or something like that. Stir people up, people's attention.
Clemson started out the year as one of the kind of it teams favored to make it to the college football playoff, win a national championship. South Carolina started out the year ranked 12th. Well, neither team is in that consideration anymore. South Carolina sits at 4-7, can't go to a bowl game even if they beat Clemson. So the stakes are a little less, but I get the feeling that feelings still are running very high between both teams. What does Clemson need to do to go into Williams-Brice and, as LaVon Kirkland says, collect the rent?
Collect the rent. Yeah. Well, I haven't watched a ton. I mean, I've seen probably pieces of just about every game. I haven't watched a lot of South Carolina. Watching the game last year, I was impressed with Sellers, the quarterback. And he kind of took that game over in the second half and the fourth quarter. So obviously containing him is the big thing defensively for us. I don't have a magic. People ask me all the time, like, what's up with their offense? What's up with Cade? How good is Cade? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't study it enough to have some kind of opinion about it. I mean, I know offensive line we've struggled. It seems like so. I don't. It's the same thing. It's the boring answer. You execute. Don't turn the ball over. Play good defense. Take the opportunities. You get the red zone to do it. I don't know the magic formula, but they've got to make plays. The games that they've won and the games they've scored 40 points in, they made a bunch of big plays. I mean, it's hard to drive it down the field, 4 or 5 times and get, score 28, 30, 35 points. You got to hit some big ones. And, I think the guys that want to make the big ones will show up and hopefully they do. And hopefully Clemson gets a win. I mean, I've kind of thought that from afar, watching Clemson. It's like, where's the guys that, want to be on Sports Center type guys, and I don't want to talk bad about Clemson at all. Because I don't feel that way, but sometimes you need guys that say, throw me the ball and I'm going to do something with it. And maybe we'll see that this weekend.
For Clemson, it could be a difference between 6 wins and a little bit of misery heading into bowl season, or 7. And it would be quite the bump for the Tigers for sure. Charlie, you'd mentioned a couple of, before we wrap this thing up, you mentioned that you've been back for a few games. just trying to make it one or two every single year. Has there been one that stuck out to you that you've been to?
Golly, the last couple I've been to, we hadn't won. I went to the LSU game this year. That was, God, I mean, exciting, great atmosphere, and just couldn't make it happen. Went to the Florida State game, I guess it was 2 years ago. That was really, really a good game, and that was the one we just couldn't,
Yeah.
couldn't at the end. I don't know. I mean, I went to the not really much recently, but I went to all 4 national championship games, and it's just it's so fun to be involved with that. And I mean, it's just a huge party, especially in the semifinal games, and that's what makes it so fun. And I know that's why coaches are getting fired left and right, because the fan base, you want to be in those last 2 or 3 big games, because it's just so much fun to be a fan of your school. And it'd be great to get back there for sure. I don't know what's going on. College football is obviously going through some kind of transition. The powerful teams aren't all the powerful teams anymore. I mean, you got some of them still up there for sure, but it's kind of like every year, you never know who it's going to be. So maybe that's a good thing. I hope we can turn it around. It'd be fun to get to go to those games again.
Yeah, I can remember, seeing you out in Phoenix, walking out on the sideline, before that game against Alabama. That was a lot of fun that night. We had no idea then the ride that we were getting ready to go on. Like, it was, hey, we're here, happy to be here, want to beat Alabama. And no idea, that 3 more national championship games were coming. What's it like to kind of go and be a part of that? I have my own memories of all of those games, but to kind of be there, and I like to tell people it's almost electric on the sidelines in pregame, if that makes
Oh yeah,
any
you
sense.
can
It
feel it.
crackles.
Yeah, no doubt. The big games are like that. This rivalry game can be like that for sure. Especially they play it at night, which they should play it at night every year. I don't who cares if they put it on TV. Just play it at night. But yeah, those playoff games are fun. It was interesting when Clemson started doing that. I was in locker rooms as they were doing it, and with different guys from the SEC teams, and all that. And Saturday night, when you're in the hotel before a Sunday game, you watch college football. After you eat, you sit around with your teammates, you watch college football, and it was always LSU and Alabama, and then all of a sudden it was us, and it was like, whoa, man, it was a new feeling, and it was really fun. And there was a time there where, I mean, it was 5-year period where close game the Clemson was in, and it was just like, they're going to win. They are. I mean, they're going to figure it out. And it hadn't been quite like that the last couple of years, but and that's what happens. And fans get the feeling of that, and it's hard to go back. To have. I mean, it's the best run. Clemson had the best run of. I mean, you could say arguably of anybody ever in the country, but definitely at Clemson. And now you kind of want to put heads on stakes now, and it's like, well, we really, 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 really had it good for a long time, and it was. I'm kind of grateful just to be a fan and be part of that, and maybe it'll happen again.
You guys are talking about being on the sidelines for these things, and I'm jealous. I'm hoping for that moment, hopefully soon, to be able to be a part of those playoff games once again.
Well, funny story. Let me tell you this. I'm on the sideline there in Phoenix, and I take a picture with somebody. I don't know who it was, and Charlie comes walking in, but Nancy O'Dell. Do you remember Nancy O'Dell walking in kind of right behind you or right there with you?
No,
Charlie, do you remember that? And I went, oh, hey, look, there's Nancy O'Dell. And my wife went, forget Nancy O'Dell. There's Charlie Whitehurst. And I was like, yeah, thank you very much for that. I'll go talk to Nancy. You go talk to Charlie.
It's fun. I mean, but you get down there, and everybody's excited about being down there too, and everybody's in a great mood. And then when you do what we did on the field, it's but Clemson.
Yeah.
It's those times are really fun, and just fun to be a part of.
Yeah, quite the story indeed. Charlie, before we let you go, I want to get a score prediction out of you for Saturday's noon clash in Williams-Brice. Putting you on the spot, but let's see what you got.
Yeah. I think if we could score, I'll say we're going to win the game 28-21. How about that?
The official Charlie Whitehurst guest prediction, 28-21. David, do you have anything before we wrap this thing up?
No, Charlie, it's always been, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Sure thing. No, good to talk to you guys. Thanks for having me.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode with Charlie Whitehurst. Never lost against South Carolina. Charlie, before we go, I was doing research on just sort of trying to get a couple of fun facts for you, and I came across something that said you were referenced as clipboard Jesus in the NFL. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because it kind of took off there for a while. People that used to ask me all the time what I thought of it, and I was fine with it. The clipboard part, so obviously I was a backup. I played 11 years. I started 9 games in the NFL. I did a lot of practicing, not a lot of playing, but I didn't hold the clipboard. Like I wasn't an actual clipboard holder, physically holding the clipboard. I never really thought that was a good look. Luckily, I was never asked to do it. I got cut in Tennessee and I got claimed in Indianapolis, and I was backing up Matt Hasselbeck again. Andrew Luck was hurt, and my quarterback coach Clyde Christensen said, "Hey, I want you to chart the plays. Stay in the game, chart the plays for us. And when we come and look at the pictures, we'll have the order correct." I said, "Oh yeah, of course." And so he handed me a clipboard, and I was like, "Oh man, I've been telling people I've never hold a damn clipboard. The nickname's out there." So I held it, and I was kind of self-conscious about it, and I was writing stuff down. I did it for one drive, and then I went and asked somebody else if they had a little pad of paper. So I retired the clipboard after one drive. I had a little pad of paper in my hand, and I just scribbled down every play. So technically, I held the clipboard, but it was for about 5 minutes.
Well, that's a heck of a way to wrap this up. I don't think there's any other way to picture this out. Guys, thank you for tuning into this episode with Charlie Clipboard Jesus Whitehurst. I want to thank our sponsors for powering us through the 2025 season. Have a happy Thanksgiving. God bless y'all. Have a good one.